Hello, welcome to the latest installment of 150 Psalms in 150 days. And today's psalm is Psalm 74. It's a powerful psalm. It is also quite a somber psalm though, so just to warn you about that. And it's quite long, so we're not going to read through the whole thing. I'm going to read some chunks and then offer some thoughts of things we can pray in response, really. So let's begin in verse 1. Why have you rejected us forever, O God? Why does your anger smolder against the sheep of your pasture? Remember the people you purchased of old, the tribe of your inheritance whom you redeemed, Mount Zion where you dwelt. Turn your steps towards these everlasting ruins, all this destruction the enemy has brought on the sanctuary. And then jumping forward to verse 7. They burned your sanctuary to the ground, they defiled the dwelling place of your name. They said in their hearts, we will crush them completely. They burned every place where God was worshipped in the land. We're given no miraculous signs, no prophets are left, and none of us knows how long this will be. It's a bleak picture, isn't it, of the situation in which the psalmist finds himself. And the context is of a nation ravaged by its enemies. And the psalmist is just questioning God, lamenting and complaining and crying out, God, where are you? What are you doing? In verse 1, we see he feels completely rejected by God. God, have you rejected us forever? But the really scary thing, and the place where the psalmist really focuses, is on the fact that God seems to even abandon the place where he has promised to meet with his people. The place of sanctuary, the places of worship, all of them desecrated, all of them seemingly abandoned by God. What? God, how have you allowed this to happen? God, what are you doing? I don't know if your prayers get anywhere close to this place when you think about coronavirus, but I guess there is a sense, isn't there, in which this virus seems to have ravished through our world and our country. And I find myself praying, God, what is going on here? God, what are you doing? Where are you? Have you just abandoned us? When we look at the way the church is unable to meet for the first time in hundreds of years, God, don't you care? God, isn't the church sort of at the heart of your plans for this world, at the heart of your kingdom? God, what is going on? The psalm, it seems to me, invites us to pray these prayers, to lay it before God in all its truth. It almost demands that we do that, actually. So that's the first prayer, just laying before God, crying out to him, God, what is going on? And the second way the psalm urges me to pray is, I guess the way I want to put it, is hassling God with the truth. When you look at verses 12 onwards, for the next few verses, the psalmist is declaring the truth of who God is. But you, O God, are my king from of old. You bring salvation upon the earth. It's like the psalmist is reminding God, in spite of all that's going on, there's truth that I can depend on. Even when I don't understand what's going on around me, I'm gonna remind myself of that, but I'm also gonna hassle you, God, with that, because if this is who you are, then I'm gonna demand that you live up to the kind of God that you've said you are. And I'm gonna stand on your truth, stand on your promises, and declare them to you. And of course, as he does that, he's reminding himself of the truth of who God is as well. You, O God, are my king from of old. You bring salvation on the earth. Come on, God, what's going on? And then the last way the psalm urges me to pray is when I look at verse 21. It says this, do not let the oppressed retreat in disgrace. May the poor and needy praise your name. The last thing I think the psalm invites us to do is to look beyond ourselves. I don't know about you, but the temptation I find in these situations where there's pressure, where there's enough to be concerned about for myself, let alone think about other people, the temptation is to withdraw inside myself and to really narrow my field of vision. But it seems to me that the psalm doesn't let us do that. The psalmist, in spite of all that's happening, all the destruction and turmoil that he finds himself in personally, he still has a vision wide enough to see the plight of the poor and the needy and the oppressed. I find that immensely challenging. That reminder, that challenge to keep my field of vision wide enough that I can see those who really need my prayers, who really need my thoughts and maybe my actions. Who are the people that in this crisis actually you need to keep on your prayer list, to keep in your head when you're praying. People in this city, the homeless, especially vulnerable to this crisis, the people on the front line, the people who've lost jobs, the people who maybe are struggling to access the free school meal vouchers, all those people who actually really need our prayers at this time. So I invite you to pray the psalm again, to get honest with God, to just lay before him all that is going on, and to cry out those sort of what is going on here, God, type prayers, but also to hassle him with the truth. Say, God, this is who you are, and I rejoice in it, but I also want to see this in action. I want to see the God that I know responding. And lastly, to pray for those who really are desperate right now and need our prayers. So enjoy praying, and I'll see you soon.